When I began this, it certainly was fueled by a passion that I had to make sure that men received their inheritance. I wanted to make sure that the persons who were studying for the priesthood received the fullness of the faith, the robust reality of the faith and all of its beauty, its glory, its history. And that's still the case. The most common claim that I hear from donors is that they know a priest in this diocese that is unlike priests perhaps that they've known elsewhere. Whatever that aspect of a faithful priesthood is, that they say, I want a priest like that. And when those priests are behind this effort, so are the faithful, because they want a priest like that.
College seminaries provide a singular opportunity, because certainly most colleges and many Catholic colleges don't provide a context for true, mature formation of the soul and of one's human elements. A college seminary provides these young men an opportunity to go from, I would say, perhaps the most rigorous formation program anyone will ever go through, which is called Mom and Dad, and allows them to enter into a program where they assent and where they ask, hey, can you help me become a better man? Because I think there may be a seed of a vocation here. Can you help me such that I would have the capacity and the clarity to be able to see and to say yes?
The average age that young men discern a call to the priesthood is 16 years old. And one of the reasons that we decided to support the St. Joseph College Seminary, my husband and I, was that it makes sense. Prior to St. Joseph College Seminary, when these young men would approach the diocese, they would be told to go back home, to go to college, and then come back if they still felt called to the priesthood. And that just doesn't make any sense at all. If they're hearing the call and they want to respond to the call, we have an obligation to provide an environment where they can hear that call. God typically doesn't speak to us in the noise, but in the silence. And St. Joseph College Seminary really helps to create an environment where God's call can be heard.
You know, we're a rapidly growing diocese. I think the statistics, in 2008 we had 235,000 members. In 2024 they project 350,000. That's almost a 50% increase. Yet in the last 10 years we've had 13 priests retire. And we have projected, I think, 27 more that are going to retire over the next 10 years. So simply put, we need more priests. I would hope that, as evidenced by the success of the Diocesan Capital Campaign, the Forward of Faith, Hope, and Love, that we would continue to share generously our gifts for the benefit of the future of the diocese.
Back in high school, which is when I was applying for the seminary, I was going to spiritual direction with Father Kauth. I said, Father Kauth, I feel like God's calling me to be a priest. He's calling me to go into the seminary. And he pulls out this huge book and it slams right there on the desk, and there's this concept for this idea, and he has all these plans drawn up, and he's met with an architect, and he's talking to the bishop, and now we're about to move into our actual building. We have a solid academic program. We have solid men with experience in there. This was a necessary step for St. Joseph's, and it goes from being kind of just this thing with 8 men in a house with a priest to being an actual seminary where men are going to be formed today and hopefully well into the future by our Lord's providence.
The faithful of Charlotte are fantastic. They really are. Every encounter with every person I've had here in the diocese has been one of total receptivity, at times of admiration, times of like, wow, y'all really doing this? And it's challenging, it's humbling. And that's why I think it's formative, because we need to be challenged. The faithful need to make us responsible for what we have to give to them. So when I meet the faithful and I realize, wow, you received me with such kindness and charity, I have to give it back to you. You know, I have to do my responsibility. It makes me responsible. It makes me aware of what God is asking of me, that I give myself over, that I give myself to my studies, that I give myself to my prayer, that I give myself into the obtaining of virtue in order to serve the faithful better. It's a huge blessing that I don't think can be overemphasized, to have a seminary here in the diocese where we can interact so much with the people we will serve.
Well, you know, that little seed that we planted years ago has now taken root and blossomed and become not only a sapling, but a tree that is ready to produce fruit. You know, you think about the investments that you make personally in your family and in your business, but what we're investing in here with the seminarians, the gains are souls. I mean, what better investment can you have than that?
I think seeing it grow from such a small group to now 30 plus young men is that it just makes me realize how we just need to trust that the Lord is always with us. Even in difficult times when we maybe tend to have despair, we shouldn't, because God is here and He's looking out for us, and look at what He's done here.
This is such an exciting opportunity. It's so much more than talking about raising money for something. It's so much more than that. It's so much better than that. It's such a more higher calling. It really is something that's so far beyond our understanding here. You will not see the tangible results of this. You may see the tangible results of a building, which is beautiful, but you may not see the spiritual fruit of it for a long, long time. And that's where the gift is. To me, that's really an authentic apostolate, where you know you're working for the kingdom and not expecting to see anything in return, and probably in your lifetime, but to know that you've worked for something that will have spiritual fruit for generations to come. That's for the glory of God.
I've been sort of surprised that when we've gone around to parishes, how many people still have not heard of the seminary, and so we're still getting the word out, and how many people have asked me why I've not asked them for any money at the parish level. The reason for that is because it's a major gifts campaign. The bishop some years ago, with his presbyteral council and diocesan officials, they convened and decided that in the best interests of the diocese, they would have a capital campaign for the diocese to shore up our endowments, to be able to fund all the good works that the diocese does and to prepare for the future. And so they had a major diocesan campaign. But in that, the bishop simply promised that he wouldn't assess any parishes money for a capital campaign for a certain period of time. We fell into that period. Even though we're not making a diocesan-wide request until the end of the campaign, we're at that point right now where it's really critical to close the gap, because the building's basically finished and I have to pay for it. And I don't want to obviously waste money relative to paying interest. This is that last point at which everyone needs to help push this over. So if you've been thinking about this, if you've heard about it, if something stirs in your heart to say, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a brick in that edifice. I want to be someone who said, in a critical time in the church's life, I helped build the priesthood. Now's the time. Now's the time, because we're coming to the end.